Welcome to the Leading at the Next Level podcast with Dove Development Consulting, the show built to provide ongoing support for your leadership journey. I have a wonderful opportunity today to chat with a lady that's become such a good friend to me and Cindy, her and her husband, Gil Colman. This is Nell-Marie. This is not Gil, just to be clear. But they have become wonderful friends. We're just incredibly blessed to have them as friends, but also as business associates and partners on the upcoming Leadership Legacy experience. And just in so many ways, we value that relationship. Now, we got to know them through me stalking Gil from after a Habitat for Humanity event, just learning, wanting to develop a friendship and get to know him better. And as we've got to know them both, it's been wonderful. Now, Nell-Marie had been with a large nationwide, maybe even global reach AI firm as a high-level tech writer, working directly with the CEO of that organization, doing stuff, having a reach all over the country, if not the globe. But over the last several months, she's left that role and she's moved into Colman Engineering. Now, we could on paper say it's part-time, but the reality is when you own a business, there's no such thing as part-time. In that process, because we work so closely with Colman Engineering in a lot of ways, she and Gil are part of our executive leadership elite think tank. I'm not going to say twisted her arm or coerced, but we've almost begged and got her to agree to serve as an executive panelist at the event. So we're really excited about that. But today we get to have that conversation around what's her background, what value she brings to everybody she interacts with, but most specifically in this role, what she does with Colman Engineering and what that purpose is for her. So Nell-Marie, if you would, let's start out, maybe talk about the real background that you've got, your professional background, experience in the industry and so on. I hit high level, but probably butchered some.
Yeah, sure. Well, and also thanks, Wes. This is fun. I'm looking forward to this and this conversation, and I sure value you and Cindy. So this is great. So I've been in the technology sector for my whole career. I started off actually with writing how-to guides for people who are intimidated by technology. It was just step by step, like here's how you create a Word document, here's how you save the document you just created. That's really my bread and butter, is taking technical information and making it accessible for people who are potentially intimidated by technology. That's my favorite thing to do. And so I've been doing that for my whole career. But Gil started Colman Engineering in 2010. And although I was never employed, I was always kind of helping in the background. And so it just made sense when we got to this point where I was like, okay, I think that we're at a point where I can join and that we'll get along and continue to be married. And so we're at a good place in our relationship that we can pull this off. So so that's where we're at right now.
That's fantastic. Nell-Marie, so many times people talk to me and Cindy because as we record this, we're just days away from our 25th anniversary. And I know you guys just celebrated an anniversary recently as well. Mm-hmm. And so many people say to us, gosh, I'm not sure I could work with my spouse. And I'm going, well, I'm going to pray for you because it's my most favorite thing that I get to do every day. Now, that doesn't mean it's easy. And that doesn't mean there aren't days where we're kind of butting heads and she's going, I'd even marry this guy, let alone decide to work with him. And let's be honest, you feel that way about Gil every now and then too. But understanding one another, and we do so much work with you guys and so many others about communication styles and behavioral styles that it makes it, okay, they're not just trying to make me mad. That's just how they are. And we can just how they are. At least blend a little bit better. That was fun. Yeah. For you, I'm going to touch on this question in a different way later, but right now, let's identify what your clear purpose is and why in different roles throughout your career, you've been willing to take on leadership responsibility. Now, you minimized, you said, hey, I'm just writing explanations, these technical documents. And hey, the reality is I should probably pay attention to those more because I don't understand technology. I just click buttons until it either breaks or I figure it out. You're the fixer for people like me. But why were you willing to take that on? What was that purpose that really drove you? Because let's be honest, leadership's hard. And in many cases, it would be easier to just say, hey, I'm going to be behind the scenes and do this thing. And that's not what you've done.
Right. I think so. At one position that I was at, I was often asked to take on leadership positions. And I was like, nope, I'm just an individual contributor. That's what I want to continue to do. I'm comfortable here. But I think it was something about turning 42 was the age really when I started to be like, you know what, it's time to give back. It's time to do the uncomfortable thing. It's time to get myself out of the way and really care for the people on the team. And I credit that to a manager that I had. She stepped into a position where she had really big shoes to fill. And she got herself out of the way and she focused on us and she cared for us and she advocated for us. She would have the hard conversations with other teams so that we could be, relieved of that stress and things. And I thought I could do that because I care about people and I I can get past my insecurities if I'm caring about people. And so yeah, that was what did it for me, because really my default is to stay in the background and just produce. But yeah, if I know that I'm doing it for a greater good and to care for people, then that's where I'm willing to step up.
What a fantastic answer, and how I'm going to come back to how it gives you fulfillment in that. And you kind of said it, but I want to draw more out of you from that. The reality is, Cindy, when we started our business, that was 100% what she wanted to do. Is, hey, let me do the behind the scenes. You're the loud, boisterous one, and so on. And I tell people all the time that, hey, if it were just me, I would get a tremendous amount of work done. But the fact that Cindy was willing to be involved means that sometimes people actually like the work I get done.
Right. Yes.
It's that smoothing those edges. And hey, make no mistake, and I'm hoping Gil hears this if he's not listening immediately, that you add that value to him too. And I'm not saying he's much nicer than me. Yeah, it's fun, but polish is nice. Now, where have you gotten the most fulfillment? What's been the piece that, as you've done it, because sometimes it gets really, really hard. You've got to have those tough conversations and so on. Where have you drawn that fulfillment, that purpose, as you've taken it on over those last however many years?
I think what I've found is that I actually have opinions, and that I feel, and something about, I don't know why I always look at age 42. It was like, there's that, the number 42 is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. There's from Hitchhiker's Guide. And so that's how it's easy to remember that was the year. It was like I kind of came into myself and I realized that, yes, I do have something to offer that's not just individual contributor. Great. Like, we need really good individual contributors, but at some point you do need to step up. And so not only was I caring for people and getting myself out of the way, but something I suddenly had some confidence because I had opinions and I would share them and they actually had some value. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll do that again. And so then I'd share another opinion and it would make a difference. And found that I actually can speak up, and I can speak up strongly if I feel really passionate about something. And so I also have a leadership role in our church, and that has been really cool. My job is actually to be the liaison if a congregant has an issue with another congregant or with a leader. And I'm like, I like this. Like, I like being able to advocate for people and then go to the larger leadership team and be able to share what I've learned and gathered. So I feel like I grew up. I've grown up in the past, however many years since then. So
one of these days I'm going to do that too. The grow up part.
The grow up part, yes. But yeah, so that's been the thing that's actually been fulfilling, is kind of discovering who I am as adult Nell-Marie.
Well, and Nell-Marie, the reality, you're incredibly modest and humble as you share that response. The reality is, I know how much value you add to everybody that you take on that responsibility for. And yes, it's fulfilling, but I also heard you say earlier that you saw that boss go out and advocate for people in a way that allowed them to do what they do better. And I see the interaction we have with you guys. I watch that fulfillment that you get because I see the difference you make, just as we've talked about so many things around Colman Engineering values and how you're being intentional to work with the team to make sure they're getting fulfillment out of the things that they're doing. It ain't about you. It's not about Colman Engineering. It's really about how do we make this atmosphere for the team. And again, I think that's the modesty and the humility that I hear you saying it. But I also, outside looking in, see the incredible difference you make in the process. So really, really cool answer in that.
Thank you.
Now, when you took on that role, you've mentioned individual contributor a couple different times. And I make a case for there's really no such thing. I've never seen anybody that sits in the closet and they don't have to interact with anybody else ever and so on. But when you take on leadership, it's at a whole different level. What motivated you to get involved in leadership development itself, learn those different skill sets? Because being able to do the job well and being able to lead people are very, very different skills.
Yeah. Are you saying that what led me to want to pursue like a training and leadership, developing leadership skills? It's because I don't like failure. Nobody does. And I would much rather learn from other people than go and just wing it and make mistakes. And so when I knew that I was going to be stepping into leadership, I was like, I need to talk to people who know how this is done well, because I don't want to, I want to minimize how many mistakes I'm going to make. I want to do this well. And it was around that same time that you and Gil had started to work together. So Gil brought me in and I started attending Live to Lead. And then he would let me, join in, and you would let me join in on other leadership training activities. And so it was really the motivation behind it was not wanting to fail, and not wanting to fail for my own sake, because it's embarrassing and painful, but because it affects other people. And I definitely don't want to cause harm. So yeah, it was both. It was selfish and it was not selfish at the same time. So
yeah, and that's what a great answer that is. And you really lead into a couple other things. I mean, I mentioned earlier that you and Gil are both, you this year and for several years now, Gil's been part of our executive leadership lead think tank group, a group of business owners and executives and so on. And it's so unique in that everybody in that group is from different industries, wildly different responsibilities in the sectors that they serve.
Yeah.
But the like part is everybody has teams of people. And I stress teams because they're rarely do we have anybody in that room that's a solopreneur. The teams of people that absolutely count on them to make good decisions, because what you said was, gosh, other people count on me. I don't want to fail for them. And that's leadership. That's not management. That's not being a boss. That's not even owning a company. That's being a leader.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly.
Now, you mentioned this. You guys have been just such a valued partner. And I stress the term partner. It's not a sponsorship. It's how can we have strong partnerships? You guys have been a partner on the Live to Lead Harrisonburg event for several years. You've taken on a pretty significant role in both as a partner, but also in your roles as an executive panelist in the upcoming Leadership Legacy experience that we're doing on June 13th at the Atlantic Union Bank Center and so on. Talk a little bit about why, and I know Gil was doing that through Colman Engineering, but again, you said you've been involved the whole time. Why have you guys been willing to do that? And specific to you, why were you willing to say, yeah, I'll be on a panel and I'll serve the team?
Yeah. I think it goes to, well, let's take a little step back. And I think this probably has already come out in what I've said, but we do at Colman Engineering, like we do care. We care about our clients. We care about the neighbors of our clients. We care about the community. We care about the world. And we see the difference that you and Cindy through Dove Development, the difference that you're making. So your mission falls right into what we care about most. And when we get to be part of the think tanks, we see all these other business owners and leaders who also care about their clients, their communities, the neighbors, all of that. So our heart is in it. Our heart wants to support what's going on. And because we want it to get broader, like we want more business leaders to know and to be able to know that there are these other like-minded leaders, and that there's support for us, for all of us, and for each other, from you and Cindy, but we can support each other, and we do. And it's just a beautiful thing. It's not it's authentic. Yeah.
Well, and we've worked really, really hard to maintain that authenticity, and we've worked
Hmm.
really, really hard to make sure there are like-minded.
Hmm.
And the
Yes.
reality is, I'm not casting any negative towards somebody that doesn't fit, but just like a culture for any organization,
Hmm.
it doesn't mean somebody's not a good person or they're not good at what they do. Sometimes
Right.
a fit's not a fit, and we work hard to not only build it but protect it, because I want that.
Yeah.
I want you to be able to experience that. Now,
Yeah.
I'm going to dig a little bit deeper because, as you said, you would rather be the individual contributor. You would
Hmm.
rather not have the spotlight, but yet you agreed. And while we're working to put 600 to 800 people in the Atlantic Union Bank Center, you agreed to be part of one of those executive panels. What really drove? Yeah, it was. I don't think it was because we twisted your arm that hard.
No, I think it's that whole like I have opinions and I think I'm happy to share them because especially if we're going to be talking about purpose and working that into your company culture and your day to day. That's what I've been focused on for the past just almost a year now at Colman Engineering, and I'm seeing the results. And it's actually I was thinking in preparation for this conversation. Um, I've really been a part of companies that cared, like I'd say 15 plus years of companies that were also very purpose minded. And it's still a part of me, even though I'm not working for those companies anymore. Like one in particular was really focused on customer service. And I feel like I took that culture with me. And when I look on LinkedIn at my former coworkers, they brought it with them to their other, positions. So it really becomes a part of you. Um, and the one previous to here also just really caring about making a difference in the world, and it just becomes a part of you. So I believe in it. I believe in the tangible things that we're doing here at Colman Engineering to work our purpose and our values into our day to day. And yeah, it's actually, I could talk about that for a long time. So that's why I agreed. I have stuff to say.
And you do. And the part that I'll stress is, quieter by nature. And
Hmm.
there's so many similarities between you and Cindy. I think that's why it's so fun for me and Cindy to interact with you and Gil, because Gil and I are wired very similar, and we
Hmm.
get along well in spite of it. And you
Yes.
and Cindy are just so amazing, and it's almost like a mirror, and it's fun.
Hmm.
Now, it really sets it up for the next question I've got for you. So, Coleman Engineering, your tagline is engineering for a better world.
Hmm.
And what I'm going to ask you around that, because I've watched how you've been so intentional in the weekly staff meetings and in so many different things, in reviews and all that you do, and working with clients, and how are we doing our messaging to make sure that that purpose is clear and it's genuine for
Hmm.
everybody, every stakeholder, and not
Yeah.
shareholder, stakeholder, everybody that's involved, everybody that you touch. What would you like the community to know about that engineering for a better world? What Coleman Engineering's purpose is, or anything like that? Because my guess is folks say, if they dealt with you, they love you. If they've not
Hmm.
dealt with you, they don't know you.
Yeah. Yeah. What I would want them to know is that this is like when Gil started the company in 2010, this is just who he is. Like he wants to do things well. He wants to do them. He wants to do what's right, and that means uh, it's like not being dishonest, like being honest. And for example, when we talk about costs, what's the cost of a project going to be when we're bidding on a project? We tell them what we really expect it to cost. We're not lowballing it to try to get the contract. It's like, no, the truth is we think it's going to be this, and we try as much as we can to stay within that. And um, Gil's like, I'm not going to play those games. I'm just going to tell it like it is.
Mhm.
Um, and uh, like for example, working with regulators, like they're seen as like a necessary evil, but they're doing a job that needs to be done, and when they do it well, that's what they're supposed to do, and to honor that and to respect that and to have a good relationship. So anyways, to answer your question, this is who Gil is, and it's who he's been from the beginning. That's when our purpose statement and our values, they're they're there because that's true of him, and he has built that into the culture here. So for the most part, the values that we have stated, they're not all aspirational. They're a lot, there's just who we are because that's who Gil is.
And that's so powerful. So many times Cindy and I, you've heard us, we do a lesson called Building Buy-in Around a Clear Mission and Vision, where we give the examples of so many companies have these fancy framed mission statements that are half a mile long, and you've had a whole room of attorneys, not knocking attorneys much, but that have never set foot in the type of facility it represents, and nobody understands what it means or how it applies to them. And I've watched you guys be so intentional, again, not just with the amazing team you've got internally, but with everybody you interact with. Here's why we're doing it this way. You gave us an example at a bid meeting not so long ago about, hey, here's why we're doing it this way, because this is a value for us, and we want to make sure it serves you to meet those values. And it overwhelms the client. It should. And that's powerful. Now, you guys do so many things to impact the community in so many ways. I mean, Gil serves on so many boards. You guys do so much philanthropic work. Give an example of some type of recent successful project that Colman Engineering, that you and Gil have really spearheaded, and the impact that it's had on either the community that we're part of or your industry as a whole.
Okay. So in Gil's interview, he shared about the Suter Street property where we partnered with Habitat and with a local developer. So I'm not going to rehash that story, but that would be the company's answer to that, but I will tell you about what I'm intending to do, a project that I think could be, it's in a tiny way impactful, but it's to identify with our clients how are they making the world a better place, and highlighting that for internally, so that when we're looking at a project, we're saying, hey, this is our client, this is how they're making the world a better place or aiming to, and here's how we can support them in that. So it's not just Colman Engineering trying to make the world a better place. It's bigger. It's helping our clients do the same thing. And then I don't know if it's on social media or just conversations with people I don't know how we're going to do that, but just getting the word out. And some people they are trying to do something good, make a positive difference in the world, but maybe they haven't articulated it yet. So just by me or us asking the question helps them be like, yeah, that is what I'm trying to do. And it just helps solidify it for them. So that's the thing that I'm hoping to do over the next 12 months, at least. And then we'll just see if it keeps going from there. But that's the project that I'm hoping will make a difference and move things forward.
I can picture it. As you explained it, I'm picturing the impact that it makes. I'm going to go so far as to say the legacy it leaves. And Cindy and I were really, really intentional about the event as a whole. While the theme is purpose, it's around the leading with a clear purpose, recent book, and so on. But the event as a whole is called Leadership Legacy, because, gosh, as leaders, it's not just about us. How can we leave that thumbprint and make a positive impact on anybody that we've got responsibility to? Not people that have responsibility to us. We've got responsibility to the teams we lead. And that's exactly what you said, with not just you guys, but all of the clients that you serve. How do you capture that, tell that story? That's so cool.
Yeah, because, your purpose as a business owner could very well be to make as much money as I can, or to grow as big as I can so I can sell, or those are purposes too. And good for you, good on you. If that's your purpose, that's your purpose. But I think a lot of people are really, they do care. And we want to encourage that and highlight that.
Yes, indeed. And oh, by the way, as business owners, we've got to make money in the process so we can sustain it and impact more people.
Of course. Yeah, you definitely have to make money. But it's like, if that's not your purpose, but to your point, legacy, it's like, okay, sure, you might be the biggest, most profitable, firm in town, but is that your legacy? Like, is that going to outlive you? Are people going to remember that? But if you make a difference in people's lives, that's where the legacy comes in. So we're not even we're not thinking about it that way. We're not like, we want to leave, we want to be remembered. No, we're just today in this moment, let's do what's right.
Yep. And not about me, not about Colman Engineering. Who's better because of it, and how can they make an impact on other people because we got to play a role?
Right. Yeah.
Very cool.
Exactly.
Now, you've touched on this a bit. In your case, it's a little bit different. When I'm talking with business owners in this conversation, and I know technically you are, because the reality is Cindy's my boss, right?
Right.
The question I'm asking here is, can you talk about how the organizational purpose, what you saw Gil doing and what he was really striving to be all about, why the company exists, aligned with what you wanted. Now it's a little bit different because you guys are married and that's it. But how did your values, the purpose you wanted to achieve personally, really align and say, yeah, it's the right time for me to join Gil and come into the team?
That's a good question. So I mentioned at the beginning how I like to take like technical information and make it easily accessible for everybody. I think for me, it's that I know what Gil's aiming to do, but he has so many things on his plate. And we're at a place right now where I'm like, okay, I know you, Gil, and I know what you're trying to do, and you've gotten it very far. You've done a fantastic job. But because I let the whole translating technical information thing is basically organization. It's about packaging things in an efficient way so that somebody can receive it. I can do that with the vision that Gil has for the company and for our community. I can take that, I can organize it, and I can say, here are the steps that we need to take to make that happen. So for me, it's the same idea. It's the same, using the same parts of my brain. So for me, that's really fulfilling. I love taking the complex and making it simple. And so, yeah, that's my reason.
The reality of that is taking complex and making simple is stinking hard.
It's so much fun. It is hard, but it's so much fun. It takes a lot of work, but it's like a puzzle. It's my favorite. It's my favorite thing to do.
It's so much fun watching you do it and knowing the value, not just for the immediate team, because you guys truly do have an amazing team. Everybody in that building that I've ever interacted with, I'm going, gosh, what great people. And I just said this to you and Gil the other day. The only reason every civil engineer in Virginia doesn't say, hey, I want to live near Harrisonburg and work with you guys is because all of them don't know you yet.
Right.
And that's I believe that from the bottom of my heart. It's a true statement.
Yeah.
And somebody can disagree and they can have their opinion and be wrong. It's okay with me. Now,
yes, I do. I agree. I mean, Gil, this team, it's amazing. Yeah. Everyone they put their heart and soul into what they do. They really care. And I think they came into Colman Engineering already caring about people and doing what's right. And that was why Gil hired them. So it's just continued to build that culture and strengthen it.
Yeah. In the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, John Maxwell talks about the law of the mirror. And he says, you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. And the caliber of the team you guys have is very, very indicative of the caliber of who you and Gil are. And it's pretty impressive. We enjoyed that. Now, the last question I'll ask before I kind of leave it open-ended for you is, what advice would you give to somebody that's maybe under 42? They haven't had that life that moment yet, that they're aspiring, they're younger professional, but they say, hey, I want to grow into a leadership role. And I want to make sure that I'm differentiating. I'm not talking about a manager. I'm not talking about owning a company, into a leadership role where they truly make a positive difference and earn influence with the teams around them.
I would say find the leader that looks like what you want to be and do whatever you can to work under that leader and learn from that leader. It might mean that you have to take a position that's not as prestigious or it doesn't pay as much, but the experience you'll get getting to learn from that leader and soak in that person's approach is worth it. It doesn't mean you have to stay there forever, but you stay there until you've taken in what you need to take in. And it might, I've heard people say, it could be a fantastic manager at, a fast food restaurant, but they are a fantastic manager. It's like, take time to go learn from them. It doesn't have to be in your industry. Good leaders are good leaders. So I would say that, like, the fact that I got that experience with the manager who stepped into the difficult position, and she was fantastic. And I think of her often. And, it was what I needed to be able to say, okay, maybe I could do this too.
Nell-Marie, one of the things I'll ask with that, so many people have those wonderful experiences. I do. I talk about it all the time with a fellow named Terry Ward. You've heard me talk about Terry. Matter of fact, I think you met Terry a couple of years ago when he came to Harrisonburg. And I talk about that. In my experience, those leaders that we get to learn from so much are also the ones that when you ask, it might not be time in that moment, but they're very open and willing to sow into you when they see you doing that. Was that your experience with the leader that you've mentioned a couple times?
I don't think I had made the connection yet to where do you mean like if I had told her, hey, I want to be a leader, and then she was, I don't know. I don't think I had verbalized it yet or really realized, but it was just through that process that I came to realize that. Um, yeah.
How about in anything, as you were working with her and had that interaction, were you able, did she make time? Was she available when you
Oh,
needed
she
her?
absolutely. Yeah, she was. And in fact, she was looking, the thing that really like, wow, is she saw an opportunity in the company where she was like, Nell-Marie, this job would take you out of our team, and I don't want that. But wow, what a great career move for you if you were to go and take advantage of this opportunity. And she was willing to take that hit for me, for me to have this other opportunity, which was a perfect, fantastic step in the right, step toward leadership. And I would go back to her when I had questions. So in that sense, yeah, I mean, she was available for me. I think when she was my manager, I was still very, very scared about taking any steps like that. But she was the one who encouraged me and said, I think you can do this. And it was great. It was perfect. So
Yeah. And while it's a different name, I had a boss for almost a dozen years that told me early on in that relationship, and it kind of weirded me out because I'm in my early 20s at the time when he said this. He said, I want you applying for a job outside of the organization at least once every year. Whoa, what?
wow.
And he said, time out. I love you. You're doing a great job. I appreciate you. I love working with you. But I don't ever want you to be in a spot where you need a job and you're not prepared for the interview.
Wow.
And heck, this
That's
is, no, Marie, I'm almost 50 years old. So this was
mhm.
a lifetime ago that he said this. And it's still one of those most powerful statements I've ever had somebody tell me.
Yeah, yeah. That's what a good leader does. They get themselves out of the way. They're not looking out for they're not looking out for what's gonna boost their, their care about their people. Yeah.
Yeah. This has been a wonderful conversation. I appreciate you being willing to do it. What
Yes.
what if I not ask you that you'd like to share to make sure folks know about Colman Engineering, the purpose driving you guys, anything, open-ended, all up to you.
I think that the I've enjoyed moving us in a systematic way toward being purposeful about our purpose and about our values, and that I do have some templatized ways that I've gone about it. Like, like I keep looking up at our poster. We have a poster that has our purpose and our values, and we have that. Everyone has it at their, where they work, like near their desk. And then we worked it into our annual reviews. So, everything kind of rolls up to the values. And there are other ways, like I'm just starting today a blog series about each of our values and what does that look like in reality. Yeah. And so just it's very doable. I guess so the thing I want to say is I'm happy to share my templates and I'm happy to share what I've done. It's you can do it. You can do it. And it's really it's worth it. It makes an impact and it doesn't have to take a lot of effort. So
Now, for folks seeing this before the Leadership Legacy experience, you guys will have some of that stuff at your trade show booth.
I'm hoping to. Yeah, that's our plan is to print out the templates. You can come pick them up at our booth and take them with you. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's so, I'm going to, this is a cool lesson. And I remember early in these conversations when you joined Gil and we started with you started being in on the monthly one-on-one process that Gil and I've been done for several years and so on. I remember seeing a little bit of anxiety in you because month to month to month, there was, you were somewhat overwhelmed because you're working on these things, but it just hadn't materialized quite the way that you felt like it should because you'd hear me talk about this company or that company and here's examples. And I remember a couple different times saying, time out, they're not amazing. They've just done these
Mhm.
little things consistently and you're doing those little things. It's going to catch up. And the last time you and Gil and I had a conversation just a few days ago, you rattled off a list of here's the things where it's culminated
Mhm.
in the last several months all into one spot. And
Yeah.
I'm almost in tears hearing you go through that stuff. And it's just wild. And I'm sharing all that to say so many times people get overwhelmed because gosh, the hill's so tall, it's so steep, I can't climb it. Well, just
Right.
take the first couple steps and it'll build. And you've done that
Yes.
magically well.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, that is true. So not to make it sound like it's all a cakewalk. It does, there is definitely some labor involved. You have to know what is true, what is truly your purpose, what's true of you. If you make it too aspirational, that's going to be an uphill climb. So at least start where you are. What do you care about? What is your purpose? What are your current values? And then like we've got some that like communication, maintaining open lines of communication. That is a value. We care about it. We've cared about it from the beginning, but we know there's still work to be done. Like there's always going to be room for improvement. And so it's a value, and it's honestly already a value, but we know we want to work on it. So so yeah.
Hey, if somebody's not actively working on it to continue getting better, is it really a value?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Do you really value it?
Anyway,
Yes.
Nell-Marie, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I appreciate it. You're amazing. We love the relationship with you and Gil and your entire team at Colman Engineering. So
thank you.
I'm going to wind this down. I'll say, hey, thanks everybody for joining on the Leading at the Next Level podcast. If you're accessing this wherever and you need continuing education credits, specifically in the human resource community, because that's where we're approved providers for that recertification, but we can work with a lot of other entities too. Send me an email at admin@dove-development.net. And Cindy and I can hook you up with a 45-day all-access trial to a program that we've built over the last bunch of years, since late 2018, called Leading at the Next Level. Full-on program that this podcast is kind of built around to provide those resources for that ongoing leadership journey, because it's not one time, it's not any time, it's how can I continue to grow? Just like Nell-Marie talked about the values, how do we keep working on communication? How do we keep doing those things? And as of today, there are more than 160 hours worth of digital lessons in that. And we add a new one once or twice every month that we offer live and then put over in the digital course. So we appreciate you joining us. Thanks again, Nell-Marie. You guys are amazing. We look forward to seeing you soon, and make it a great day, everyone. God bless.
Sounds good.